Last week, Immigration Minister Kenney revealed that there's a serious and growing breach in our undefended border with the United States. At this border crossing in Stansted, Quebec, 282 people have illegally entered the country and made refugee claims. Now, their journey is worthy of a Hollywood movie. They came from Romania, traveled through Mexico, into the United States, and then literally crashed through a sleepy border crossing here in Quebec, where they made refugee claims. And joining us now to talk about it is Immigration Minister Kenney. Minister, good to have you on the show.
Thanks very much, Tom.
Of the, let's just get an update on those who did cross, the story that you were telling. 85 came across. How many of them have we caught so far? How many are in custody?
So far 40 that we've detained, but actually there were more than 85 altogether who came this route from Romania through Mexico and the United States. We've designated 5 of the arrivals that happened over the course of the past 8 months or so. These are people who came from one village in Romania. They flew to typically Cancun in Mexico, then hired smugglers to bring them across the U.S. border, often were detained by the American authorities, then bailed out for thousands of dollars, bailed out of immigration detention, rented vehicles, drove north to one specific Canadian border crossing at Stansted, Quebec, typically raced across the southbound lane in the north, going north, and then eventually were detained by Canadian police. They said that they were refugees, they got released, went to Toronto, and then subsequently many of them have become involved in organized criminality such as distraction thefts.
It's an incredible story, but just paint a picture for me of that border crossing in Stansted that they went to. Is this sort of part of the great undefended border that is just forest and trees?
Well, it's look, at the end of the day, this is a 6,500 kilometer long, unguarded border that does not have a fence on it, and we don't want to build a fence. So there's always people who are determined, who want to come up from the United States are, inevitably going to find a way to do so. Stansted's particularly complicated because the border cuts right through a 19th century town, and there are houses and buildings that the town library, the front door is on the American side and the back door is on the Canadian side. So we've added resources to the Border Services Agency. We've increased the number of frontline personnel there by 26%, additional RCMP resources. But at the end of the day, unless you build a wall through a town like that, there's going to be some people able to sneak through.
And as you say, that's just one part of our undefended border. I mean, there's big swaths out in Western Canada where it's just wilderness, basically.
Yeah, if they weren't coming through the town, they could just get out of the car, go through a forest or a farmer's field. So at the end of the day, we cannot create a sort of walled border with the United States. No one wants to.
This is not the U.S.-Mexican border problem.
This is not that problem at all, but we do need to create disincentives for human smugglers who seek to target Canada in this very sophisticated way. And that's why we've brought in the Protecting Canada's Immigration System Act, the first application of which was against these 85 smuggled illegal migrants last week.
Let me take you forward because under the perimeter security deal that we're working with the United States on, there was one section of that dealt specifically with refugees and how we treat them. And by next year, there's supposed to be a new agreement beyond the
safe third country.
Safe third country status. Where are we on that? How far? And what is likely to be?
Well, the reason why these folks crashed across the border and didn't stop to register their refugee claim at the port of entry is because they would have been turned back at the port of entry because of this agreement where we say, look, if you're in the States, you come north to seek asylum, you should be seeking protection where you can in the United States. It's a rights-respecting country, a signatory to the Refugee Convention. And we don't encourage or accept asylum shopping. So that's the principle of the law. But by crashing across the border, getting inland, they're then exempt from that safe third country agreement. So we've asked the United States to amend this. We'd like to address that. So far, they have not agreed to do so. Again, that's why we've brought in tougher laws to deter people from coming to Canada through what are dangerous human smuggling operations. So we want to offer protection to bona fide refugees, but to stop smuggling syndicates from trying to abuse our generosity.
But to be clear, what you're saying is that we're trying to convince the Americans that if somebody crashes across the border, that they can be still treated as if they were in the United States. That's what you want, and that's what the U.S. is not agreeing to yet.
No, they're not, and they've said they want no amendments to the Safe Third Country Agreement. Quite frankly, 90% of the people who present themselves at our land border crossings with the United States to make asylum claims end up being exempted from that agreement because of a whole lot of exceptions. So the agreement's become a bit of a paper tiger, unfortunately, and that's why we have to find other ways to deter people who are not bona fide refugees but are trying to abuse our generosity from doing so.
Jason Kenney, Minister of Immigration, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, Tom.